Joe Biden was credibly accused just around a month ago. And by all accounts, the accusation was substantially more credible than any accusations made against Brett Kavanaugh. The media ignored it. Many people on the left and the Democrats ignored it. Conservative outlets, right-wing sites started talking about it. And it was only 19 or so days later, the New York Times finally addressed the accusations, running a very strange defense piece for Joe Biden, arguing there was no pattern of bad behavior and then criticizing Donald Trump. But things have changed. Corroborating evidence has emerged, and you cannot deny it. The people who tried playing this game where they're like, oh, you can't compare this to Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh was so much worse when he wasn't. Well, they're backed into a corner. And now they are finally admitting it. They don't care about the accusations. They're going to vote for Joe Biden anyway. In an absolutely astounding op-ed from the New York Times, I believe Tara Reade. I'm voting for Joe Biden anyway. And it's not just the mainstream left. It's also progressives like The Nation. I believe Tara Reade, and you should too. Both articles concluding that yes, the corroborating evidence suggests Joe Biden actually did the horrifying thing he's accused of. But come on, you gotta vote for him anyway. What I absolutely love about this story is the media hypocrisy, the fact that we can see the bias in the press, the defense of Joe Biden, and the final admission. Fine, you've gotten us. We're going to vote for him anyway. I love the failed defenses arguing, well, you're making excuses for Donald Trump. He's been accused as well. Yeah, well, you know what? It wasn't conservatives who asked for this standard. It wasn't conservatives who said you should throw out due process. And in fact, most conservatives don't believe the accusations. In fact, Tucker Carlson is calling this out, saying we need to keep up our guard. He questions the timing. Dare I say, conservatives are remaining consistent on their principle. And you see the problem for me. I'm not here to advocate for a policy position. You want to argue progressive or flat taxes, immigration and naturalization. That has nothing to do with any of this. This has to do with how the media runs defense for Democrats, how the Democrats pretend to have morals when they don't. They pretend to be principled, fighting for truth and justice, and then the moment their own rules come back to haunt them, they totally ignore it. And only when they're forced to finally come out do they say, fine, you got us. We're voting for him anyway. Now, I'll give some credit to this article. It's horribly honest, owning it, the importance of owning an ugly moral choice. In fact, it may actually be somewhat consistent for many of these people. Think about it. Donald Trump has been accused by many women of impropriety. I try to keep things family friendly here. And Trump supporters just don't believe it. So it's not that they're giving Trump a pass. They just don't believe it. And like I showed you with Tucker Carlson, they also don't believe this woman necessarily either, though she does have substantially more corroborating evidence. And we've seen the videos of Joe Biden. For the most part, conservatives are only calling out the hypocrisy. The Democrats, on the other hand, did call out Trump, did call out Kavanaugh. And the argument here, and to be fair, is that, well, Donald Trump has substantially more accusations against him. So when it comes down to it, your only real option, I guess, is to vote for Biden. There is one real option. Don't vote for either of them. I mean, unless you think Biden could actually win, which I really doubt anyone believes. Why would you give your voice to someone you think is despicable? I would never do it. That's why I've said it over and over again. I do not like the idea of voting for the lesser of two evils. Well, let's read some of these stories. And I want to show you some really interesting data. A poll from Axios, or it's a poll posted by Axios. Biden leads Trump as most voters know about the Reade allegation. There it is. The Democrats don't care. Were they pretending? I mean, they argued for the most part that with Brett Kavanaugh, it's a job interview. Should someone really be allowed to have this position? We're just doing a job interview, right? That's what they said. Okay, now you know about this. You believe this? Oh, now you think he should have the job. Oh, because the other guy's potentially worse. Have you considered voting for someone else? Ye have little faith. Well, let's actually read through some of these stories and see their arguments. I actually have a graph from 538 showing the media coverage of this and what conservatives had been saying. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is share this video. You know why? This video's getting suppressed. Hands down, no question about it. It'll be demonetized, deranked, suppressed, and I'm going to tell the story. I'm not going to ignore it. But yeah, this is YouTube, man. They don't like the fact that I'm talking about this. And there's a good argument. I mean, what advertiser wants to be associated with this kind of stuff? Yeah, that's fair, I suppose. But that does mean YouTube is less likely to recommend it, so people won't hear the story. If you think this story is important, you think I do a good job, sharing this video really, really does help. Or if you just want to watch, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and maybe that's enough to get YouTube to actually recommend my videos to you, but whatever. Let's read some of the New York Times story. I believe Tara Reade. I'm voting for Joe Biden anyway. Here. I'm glad you're owning up to it, though. I can respect it. I mean that sincerely. The importance of owning an ugly moral choice. I completely disagree with it. I would rather vote for a dude sleeping in the alley if I thought he was a good person. It's not about whether or not they think they can win. Your vote is you saying this person I believe is the best choice I can make. Okay, it's not about winning, is it? Well, apparently it is. That's all it's about. It's about winning, right? You know, some of these people don't seem to understand that if Trump was really that bad, let him have it. You know why? Vote for who you think is right. If you stand on principle, then you've never wasted your vote. And if you think Trump really is that bad, well, then perhaps it will reflect poorly on him and he won't get reelected. But when you do this, you look bad. Trump doesn't look bad. You do. This is from Linda Hirschman, who writes, let's be clear. I believe Tara Reade. I believed Anita Hill, too. Remember the buttons? I wore one. What's the constant here? Joe Biden, then the bumbling head of the Senate Judiciary Committee during the Clarence Thomas confirmation hearings, now the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee. She goes on to make several points, saying, what's a girl to do? Discounting Mrs. Reade's accusation and one after another denigrating her corroborating witnesses, calling for endless new evidence, avowing that you hear her is nonsense. We are now up to 4 corroborating witnesses, including one contemporary corroborating witness unearthed by Rich McHugh, who was Ronan Farrow's producer at NBC News during the Harvey Weinstein MeToo reporting, and one Larry King live tape. So stop playing gotcha with female supporters of Mr. Biden or the MeToo movement, making them lie to the camera or perhaps to themselves and doubting her to justify their votes. I'll take one for the team. I believe Miss Reade, and I'll vote for Biden this fall. Woo-hoo-hoo. Spicy. Well, it's not just establishment mainstream Democrats. It's the nation. Progressives. I believe Tara Reade, and you should too. We already knew Biden is the type. Had we as voters and had the Democratic Party taken this seriously, we wouldn't be in this mess right now. From Kate Mann, again, respectable, pointing out that they're placed between a rock and a hard place, and they might not want to vote for this guy, but they do view Trump as worse. Congratulations. You're participating in a system that you view as fundamentally broken, and you're willing to vote for someone you think is a disgusting monster because you're worried about someone who's slightly more of a disgusting monster. Okay, I'll be fair. Substantially more of a disgusting monster from your point of view. You know what I do? I have one secret to getting past all of this stuff. I don't vote. If I see 2 people, Democrat, Republican, and let's go to 2016, Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, I laughed. I put my feet up, put my hands on my head, and I didn't vote. I said, I don't want that guy. I don't want that lady. Boom. Is it that difficult? And I sat in a room full of mostly Democrats laughing as they thought they were going to win, and one Trump supporter who thought they were going to lose. And then when Trump started winning, I just laughed. It's people got to realize, man, you got to sometimes just go with the flow. That means bad things happen. It does. But you can't keep trying to change the wind. You can't. But you can adjust your sails. You're fighting a current you can't defeat. Don't support what you hate about it. Just stop playing. Get out of the river. Just leave. Vote for someone else you think is better, even if you don't think they're going to win. Otherwise, you're wasting your vote supporting someone you don't like. And of course, in this article, the woman says, I advocate for voting for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. I guess. For me, I'm not going to vote for either. Now, it wasn't just these articles because we saw this tweet on May 1st. Lisa Bloom says, I believe you, Tara Reade. You have people who remember you told them about this decades ago. We know he is handsy. You're not asking for money. You've obviously struggled mightily with this. I still have to fight Trump, so I will still support Joe. But I believe you, and I'm sorry. No, you don't. You don't have to support this system. So long as you contribute to a system that you believe is broken, the system will always exist. And they'll make sure. And it will only get worse. Well, that brings us to the polls. Who's going to win come November, Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Well, not that I think it really means much. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, Hillary Clinton was leading the polls as well. Joe Biden very well may be ahead of Trump. I'd be really surprised because, look, I'll tell you what, man. I have lifelong Democrat friends who are hitting me up about my videos criticizing the Democrats, being like, I completely agree with you. Like, I'm watching this. I'm watching the news. I'll tell you what, man, there are regular Americans who can't even stand watching mainstream news anymore because of the defense of Joe Biden. They open the paper and they see vote for Biden anyway, and they're confused. Like, what is this? Not only is Joe Biden now credibly accused, something you stood up against, the dude can't form a sentence. Why would you vote for this? It's insane. I'm not saying to go vote for Trump. I'm saying, why would you put your voice behind this? Well, the polls show that even knowing about it, I don't care. I love it, man. You know, I love the honesty. I really do. You know why I'm laughing and I'm happy? The one thing I hate more than anything is deception, dishonesty, the misleading nonsense. Now, I understand there's some things that have to be kept secret. Not everything will be completely transparent all the time. And for security reasons and to protect people and things like that. But I love it when you finally see the curtain lifted, the masks slipping. We can now see the man behind the curtain. We get it. I so appreciate this. Thank you, Democrats, for coming out and admitting you don't care. No. I understand you care about the accusations and you care that you don't like people who do this, but you don't care enough to actually go and vote for someone else. Because I assure you, there are other people running for president. You don't got to vote for either of these two people. Oh, but you're worried one will win? You know what, man? I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. Axios says, Joe Biden leads President Trump among registered voters by 9 points, 50% to 41%, even as most voters, 86%, say they're aware of the allegations by former Senate staffer Tara Reade. By the numbers, 37% of those surveyed said they believed that Reade's allegation against Biden was probably true, while 32% said it probably isn't true. Though those feelings split largely along partisan lines. 50% of Republicans believe the allegation is probably true, while 17% don't. I'll be straight up with y'all. A lot of Trump supporters and a lot of conservatives are less likely to believe the accusations against Trump and Kavanaugh and more likely to believe the accusations against Joe Biden. Many for partisan reasons. My guy can do no wrong, they would say. Donald Trump's being falsely accused. They just don't like the orange man. Well, I think there is a good reason to call out some of the accusations against Trump and especially Kavanaugh. I mean, the Kavanaugh accusations, many were proven to be false. I mean, literally, some of these people are recanted. And there's videos of Joe Biden, being inappropriate and creepy. OK, but there's more corroborating evidence against Joe Biden than there is against many of the accusations having to do with Trump. But let's be real. Of course, partisanship plays a role in this. Of course, there are going to be Democrats who say, I don't believe this. But the problem is, it's not about whether you believe it or not. It's about what you advocate for. Even though Trump supporters might believe this about Joe Biden and might not believe it about Trump, they didn't advocate for removal of due process. In fact, consistently in the MeToo movement, with all of these college stories about young men being accused, it has been the right and conservatives arguing for due process. So now we are here and we do have Tucker Carlson of Fox News questioning this. Their principles, for the most part, especially among leadership on the conservative side, has remained consistent. The problem is the Democrats saying they don't believe it against Joe Biden and changing the rules. They said believe women. It was the left. It was the Democrats. You can't just erase all of that. They say 50% of Republicans believe the allegation was true. 55% of Democrats believe it's not true. 32% of those who believe the allegation is probably true still back Biden, compared to 59% who support Trump. Biden has firmly denied the allegations. Why it matters. Biden's lead over Trump, despite wide knowledge of the Reade allegation, plus his big net favorability among Democrats, plus 66%, indicates that his position as the presumptive Democratic nominee remains solid. It's also noteworthy that he retains a higher net favorability with women than men, despite the allegation. I absolutely love it. I'm just, PR, right? Public relations, press statements from corporations, from politicians. It's always just so fake. And we know they're lies, right? It's like there'll be some environmental disaster and they'll come out and be like, we were completely unaware of this. We're so sorry. And you're like, no, you weren't. We know you're lying, man, but you're just going through the motions, saying what needs to be said. To see these people come out and just say, you know what? We get it. Yeah, we're going to do it anyway. I'm like, thank you for just being honest. That's how I feel, right? Check this out. 538 has this really cool graph breaking down how everything, started with the story. And we can see ain't nobody's covering this. Fox News, a little blip on like April 4th, just like one story maybe. Here's what they say. Of the three major cable news outlets, Fox News has devoted the most attention to Reade so far. Through Friday, May 1st, Fox News mentioned Reade in 371 clips collected by the TV News Archive, 344 of them on or after April 24th. Many of these mentions were by the channel's conservative commentators criticizing Democrats and the media for not giving Reade's allegations more airtime. You know what that means? The conservatives weren't highlighting the story out of some hypocritical stance where they would ignore Trump and call out Biden for partisan reasons. It was them calling out the hypocritical stance by the media for ignoring the allegations. That's mostly what I've seen. Of course, you're still going to get Democrats saying they proudly support Joe Biden and Eric Holder endorsing Joe Biden. You're going to get stories like this from April 13th. Michelle Goldberg of the New York Times. Bravo. I love this. This is amazing. What to do with Tara Reade's allegation against Joe Biden. They say that the assault accusation is being used against the presumptive Democratic nominee to troll the MeToo movement. Is that what it is? I seem to recall the same woman saying pigs all the way down, Kavanaugh, in our rotten ruling class. And then she had to address this hypocrisy. Democrats, Tara Reade, and the MeToo trap. Don't compare the case against Joe Biden to the one against Brett Kavanaugh. I'm sorry. You don't get to play these games. We're holding you to your own standards. What's really phony about this story is that initially they really tried to deflect and deny this. They said, in the New York Times piece, there's no pattern of abuse and Donald Trump is worse. But the New York Times was then forced to come out because the tides have changed. Everybody's now in agreement like, the guy probably did it. The Associated Press apparently had an interview with Tara Reade a year ago and deleted it. They got rid of it. Why didn't they air it? Why didn't they try to dig into the story and corroborate the allegations against Joe Biden? I really wonder why. What we get from this and why it's so refreshing is because we can now see the bias inherent in the media. 100%. You can't deny it. The New York Times was forced to come out and say there should be a DNC investigation into Joe Biden. Journalists mock New York Times call for unbiased DNC panel to investigate Biden. Is this satire? It's laughable because the New York Times had no choice but to backpedal because public opinion, 86% of people, they know about this. And you can't, what are you going to do? I've been asked by people, how do you convince them that the news is fake or at least that the news is not that good? I actually think many of these sources tend to be okay. It's just you got to sort through the bias and figure out what's true and what isn't. But I use the same sources. I just fact check them against each other and try and investigate myself, look up what was said and find the source. The problem with this story is that it destroyed the credibility of so many news outlets like CNN, for instance, or for the Washington Post or the New York Times, because they were ignoring it. In CNN's case, they had the Larry King show from 93 that where you can hear the woman call in corroborating the story, and they were scooped on it. The Washington Post blamed this on Trump allies, even though the story was broken by progressives, and the New York Times actually defended Joe Biden. But the public wasn't having it. The hypocrisy, you could see it. The Kavanaugh stories, everyone was asking the question, why is it that with Brett Kavanaugh, 900 articles, with Tara Reade, 0? And they couldn't do anything about it. And eventually progressives were the one putting pressure on them. Yeah, they tried to blame conservatives, but it didn't work because it wasn't. It was Bernie supporters. It was leftists. It was progressives. So now they're flip-flopping, and boy, do they look silly. Take a look at this story. Time's Up, this is the MeToo organization, said it could not fund a MeToo allegation against Joe Biden, citing its nonprofit status and his presidential run. Now what do we get? From The Wrap, just a few days ago, Time's Up says assault claims like Tara Reade can't go ignored. Well. What a remarkable flip-flop. So they can't pretend anymore, but at least they're being honest and saying straight up, yeah, you know what, we're going to vote for the guy anyway, we don't care, right? Tucker Carlson, unsurprisingly, maintains his principles. And even I've said something similar. I've said it in almost every video. I don't care for these old allegations. I don't think it should be held against Joe Biden. How is Joe Biden supposed to prove this or disprove it? You can't. The court of public opinion is unforgiving. I don't care for this stuff. But I will give you what you asked for. The standards you wanted. So my biggest criticism, very much like many of these conservative sites, is the hypocrisy and the double standard. Tucker Carlson says, why we need to keep our guard up as the Tara Reade Joe Biden story progresses. He says, one thing we have not yet addressed in any detail is Reade's story itself. What exactly does she say happened between herself and Joe Biden? Is there any evidence to back it up? It's a good point. I just want to grab his conclusion where he basically, I'll give you, if the Fox News website will load. He says, now as we learned so bitterly during the Brett Kavanaugh hearing, political imperative sometimes influences claims like this. That does not mean that Tara Reade is some kind of liar or is a devious partisan. We don't know that is true. And we're not saying it now. To be clear, we're not asserting that. But the timing does mean, and this is our duty, that we ought to keep our guard up as this story progresses. Those of us who cover it going forward should be very wary of being used. Again, this is a presidential year. Weigh everything against the facts. Take nothing for granted. The one thing you can be certain of this year is you're being lied to. So that's what we know so far about the Tara Reade story. Those are the facts. Decide for yourself, and and what you make of them. We'll be updating it regularly. I've said something similar. She was a Bernie Sanders supporter. Her story's coming at an opportune time. I'm not a fan. I am not a fan of this strategy, of these tactics. And what you got to be careful of is that if you jump on this, wagging the finger and laughing and saying, haha, what happens in 3 months when it turns out she was wrong? They will lord this over you forever, and you will regret it. We have another story from Yahoo. Tucker Carlson questions the timing of Tara Reade's allegation against Joe Biden. That's basically the gist of what we saw here. Completely fair. This is why what I'll say to everybody, if you are concerned about these accusations and you're a progressive, then by all means, call them out. And you have my respect for being honest if you're going to vote for the guy anyway. 100%. I really do. And if you want to be consistent, you have to, right? If you're someone who doesn't believe this, then be careful about how you are going to be used. Regular people don't know for sure. Many of them seem to want to vote for Joe Biden no matter what anyway. These aren't necessarily the same people coming out and demanding a removal of due process. So it's important to point out there are high-profile personalities, people like Alyssa Milano, who are lying to you, right? And the reason I say she's specifically lying is that she was all about MeToo and believing women up until it was someone she endorsed, Joe Biden, and she refused to back down. Only later on did she say, okay, Tara must be heard because they're being forced to. But you are being exploited. As Tucker said, you are being lied to. The one thing you need to focus on for this is not the allegation itself. We can dismiss that outright, and I mean that 100%. No disrespect to Tara Reade, no disrespect to any other victims or anything like that. But it's a 30-year-old allegation. It's hard to prove. I understand there's corroborating evidence, but you know what? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and it's something you can't prove. It's 30 years ago. What you can prove is that the media is biased, that the Democrats don't care for these principles themselves, for the most part. They'll vote for it anyway. They have the opportunity to remove Joe Biden at a convention. They can swap him out for someone else. In fact, I think they very well may because Biden can't win. This is their opportunity to get in someone like Andrew Cuomo. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But if they're willing to ignore the serious claims against them, it shows you that they never really cared that much. They're still willing to vote for someone, put them in office, give them the job, as it were, even if they're this really awful person. And they say it's because they're scared of Trump. So again, you know what? I can respect that. They think Trump is worse. I think it's a bit of Trump derangement syndrome. And ultimately, if your principles would suggest you cannot support someone who's done this, then you can't vote for either of them. That to me shows hypocrisy, 100%. In the end, the main takeaway, not even that, because look, they're being honest in this op-ed. She's straight up saying, I'll vote for him anyway. Call out the media. That's what we need to do. Point out the New York Times defended this man. Call out the press for their support of the Democrats, for the lies. And they're dragging Biden along. Let's admit it, man. I mean, it is obvious to all of us watching, not everybody, that the only reason Joe Biden's still here is because the media has been propping him up, scared to actually challenge him. You know why? There was an event that the ACLU defended, and boy, was everybody mad. And all of a sudden they started losing subscribers like crazy. They were losing donors, monthly donors, so they flip-flopped, no longer wanting to defend outright free speech, now condemning hate speech. The same is true for these media outlets. They know that even if there's evidence to suggest Joe Biden did this, by publishing the story, they will lose subscribers. Look at what happened to Chris Hayes, MSNBC. He covered the story, and they demanded he be fired. I don't know why any sane person would want to be associated with that tribe. You know why? I'm not a conservative. I didn't support Trump. I'm not here to defend Trump. Don't care. Didn't vote for him. Yeah, he's got accusations against him too. But Trump supporters aren't threatening my job. They're actually just offering me a beer. And this is what I've noticed when it comes to politics. Typically, you hear stories of people who have drifted to the right because people on the right gave them praise. Yeah, absolutely. You hear a lot of those stories. And you also hear stories of people on the left who drifted to the left because they were threatened and beaten down and their careers were in jeopardy. Who would you rather associate with? They call it the love bomb. The right wing will praise you and cheer for you until they convince you to join their ranks. What's the alternative? A left that will tell you we will destroy you and end you and take away your career? Yeah, sorry, that's not a winning recipe. And that's what we get. So look, in the end, you get someone like me. I have no interest in anyone's tribe. I have no interest in defending anybody. Donald Trump's been accused by substantially more women than Joe Biden has. The reality? The Republicans didn't ask for a no due process standard. So what am I supposed to say to that? Ha ha, your president's been accused? They're going to be like, well, we don't believe it. Well, what about Joe Biden? Well, we also don't really believe that either, as noted by Tucker Carlson. But they're going to hold the Democrats to their own standard. That's what you need to pay attention to. Politics flowing in one direction, as I've described it. The left seeks to push people out. But I think I want to revise that. It's not so much that it flows in one direction. It does, right? You see how news media is biased. But it's also how the strategies of the left and the right are very different. Ultimately, I believe if the left tries to maintain we will destroy you, we will lie about you, we will come for you, we will cancel you, they'll just keep losing until they recognize you gotta be nice to people and argue a real policy idea. But when it comes to Joe Biden, when I've tweeted about this, they don't defend Joe Biden. They just immediately say Trump. Here's my challenge to you. Advocate for Joe Biden without saying the words Trump. Defend Joe Biden without saying the words Trump. Because I'll agree with you if you want to say something bad about the president. I'm not here to defend him. If you can't do that, then I don't see you as a viable option when it comes to election time. I have heard nothing but defense of Donald Trump. All of the good things about the economy, the things he's done, the foreign policy, the border, illegal immigration, all these things are arguments for him. And I say, okay, what about Biden? Nothing. I'll leave it there. We'll see how things play out. You can check out more segments coming up later today at 6 p.m. youtube.com/timcastnews. It is a different channel, and I will see you all there.